Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. In this video we're going to continue on with the GSX-R 750, the junkyard slabby. Stay tuned. So as I said, we're going to continue on with the 86 GSX-R 750, and you'll notice that there are no engine parts around here. Everything has been packed up. I put everything in those kind of bins there, these big black totes, and all the engine parts are in my other building out of the way. There's nothing in here. So the decision has been made. That's going to sit there in boxes until this job is finished, and then at that time I'll see. I might sort of sell that off if there's parts there that can help somebody else put a bike together. That's probably what I'll do. I don't typically hang on to too much stuff once I've got a project done, unless I think I'm going to restore another one. So more often than not, I'll sell it off. I'd rather have that stuff go to somebody that can use it to restore another bike. The more of these things that are kept alive, the better. So yeah, today I'm just going to start picking away at stuff on this video. The wheels have got to come apart, brakes have got to come off, the sprocket has to come off, and then those wheels have to go in to get tires removed. The swing arm is going to come apart. We'll get that apart and cleaned up, and also the frame. So the plan for the way I'm going to go about this is I want to get the frame done, the swing arm done, the wheels and the forks and all that kind of stuff. And that way, once I get I can kind of start to build this thing from the frame up. The wheels will have to wait with going back on the bike, of course, until they're painted. Once I get the kind of the frame and the swing arm and the forks done, I'm going to move on to the body work and get that sorted out. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. A little bit of heat. All right, see how hard these sprocket nuts are to get off. Not bad at all. All right, time to get scrubbing and cleaning, I guess. See if we can get this paint off. That's gonna be tough. Well, the process of getting this orange fluorescent paint off is going to be a long and laborious one. I did this section up here. So this is basically just paint remover at this point. So I'm going to have to find something else that'll remove this. Maybe I'll try some acetone in there to see if that takes the rest of it off. But yeah, it's going to be a long, painful, and slow. I managed to get it from fluorescent orange to pale pink. Coming off, but it's a very slow process. Trying lots of different ingredients to get this to work. Paint stripper, acetone, lacquer thinners, methyl ethyl ketone. Gotta wear a mask with some of this stuff, it's nasty. It's a very slow process, but I am getting there slowly. Yeah, obviously getting into the tight corners is quite difficult. I've used a combination of the chemicals I mentioned, plus I've started to switch over to the little brass brushes in the Dremel and some of these scouring pads to get in there. And generally speaking, it's it's cleaning up. I mean, this whole thing back here was orange. You can still see the orange inside the bolt holes. I'm not too worried about that, but I'd like to get rid of all the traces of pink. It's coming cleaner and cleaner. I just keep going over it. So this whole thing at the back here was completely orange. So it's coming, and we're getting there. I still haven't decided yet what I'm going to do about all of the corrosion on here. As I said, I know that these are typically anodized. I'm not sure whether the cast parts are anodized or not. I suspect not, but this part at the back is just so corroded that I might end up just sort of cleaning it, and if the anodizing comes off, then I'll just clear it. You don't see it anyway, but I'm not sure I can live with the corrosiveness there and the pitting and whatnot. So we'll figure that out as we go. And then now I'm just going to move on to the swing arm, or the swinging arm if you're in the UK. And yes, as somebody has pointed out, I am multilingual. So this has got all kinds of crappy orange paint in it, as well as the usual grime and crap from the chain. So typically what I do with this sort of stuff, I use kerosene and brake cleaner to get the grime and the muck off. So I'll do that first, and then I'll clean the paint off with the paint remover and the other products that I've been using. And then again, this, I'm not sure what the finish is on this. The last time I did the Suzuki swing arm, the coating just kind of peeled off with the paint stripper. So I don't think it was anodized. I'm not sure what this one is. And if it peels off, or if I'm not happy with the finish, I'm just going to strip it. I'll refinish with Scotch-Brite to get the right sort of effect on it, and then I'll clear coat it to make sure it looks good. As far as the rear shock goes, it's not great, but it's not completely knackered. Like there is compression there. It doesn't just kind of collapse. So for now, I'm still looking for something newer to put in there for a reasonable price, but I haven't found anything that meets the need yet. I did order one off Amazon, and they gave me my money back because they said it had been lost in the mail in shipping. So I'm going to give that a while. It might still show up. But we'll see. In the meantime, I just disassembled this whole thing. I cleaned it all up. I painted it, and it'll do for the moment anyway. And then obviously all these other parts still need to be cleaned because they're still full of grime and junk and oil and grease and whatnot. So we'll clean all those up as well. And so basically I'm just right now using kerosene and a toothbrush just to start to get the general crap off here. And then once all that's off, then I can get the paint off after that. So next I'm going to just start to try to get some of the orange paint off the swing arm here. So same process as I've used with the other frame pieces. This is just paint stripper, a brush, and just get it all coated on there, let it sit for a while and see how much stuff I can get off. And then it's just basically paint stripper and scrubbing with a 3M pad to see what can be removed. Right. Let that soak in for a little bit and then scrub it off. I mean, it's coming off, but it comes off really slowly. It's getting cleaner, but as you can see, it's a long and slow process of paint thinners and scouring pads and methyl ethyl ketone and all kinds of nasty chemicals. So yeah, I wear rubber gloves and a mask and that kind of stuff because this stuff is, well, the dust is not good and the chemical vapors are not good. It's an unfortunate situation that you got to go through, but hey. So as I spend more time cleaning this off, the more apparent it becomes that the majority of this in this sort of area, it's hard to tell with the cast pieces, but certainly the box frame and the tube piece, there's some sort of coating on there. Now whether that's an anodized coating or whether that's silver paint, I'm not sure, but it doesn't come off particularly easily, so I'm guessing it's maybe anodized. So it's not coming off with any sort of paint strippers. I'm slowly getting rid of the orange and the pink. However, it seems to me that for this to look decent, I'm going to have to paint it. So, I mean, even if I get all of the pinky orange stuff off there, this is to get the anodizing off. I would have to sand it right down and go from, let's say, a 400 to 6 to 8 to 1,000, and then brush finish it or something like that. And I think, given the state of it, I mean, there's some gouges in here. I can fix those up, maybe putting a little bit of JB Weld in there and then sanding it off and making it look good. I think the finish will look better, given that, again, there's nasty marks in this thing all over the place. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to look better if it's painted in silver. That's just my feeling on it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish cleaning it, and then I'll sand it and get it ready for paint, because I'm basically going to paint now. I'll paint this and the rear subframe and a couple of other components as well. The frame will not get painted. That's going to stay as it is. But I think that this will just end up looking 10 times better if it's painted. And to be honest, I'm going to have a heck of a time getting right into those welded areas in here. I've been at this for an hour and a half at least, and yes, it's getting there, but I'm not sure I'm going to get all of that out. So I think painting this will be the logical solution. So back to the main frame section, and as you can see, most of the paint has gone out of there, but I'm still not happy with it. It's still not as clean as I need it to be. So my plan is I'm going to give it one more cleaning, which I don't suppose is going to get rid of it entirely. And so if that happens, if it doesn't really go away, then my second option is I don't want to paint the whole frame. This is an anodized frame. I may kind of sand this one down at the back and re-clear coat it, because the anodizing would be taken off. But what I'm thinking for inside here, since it's the webbing on the inside, I have a small airbrush, and I think I could easily paint inside here with a silver paint. Just give it a very light dusting, and then just kind of give it one coat of clear inside there, just to clean it up, get rid of that pink, and then that would allow the whole thing to look like 10 times better. I mean, you don't see any of it anyway when the bike's all back together. It's just that I know it's there, and if I know it's there, it'll bug me. So that's what I might end up doing. So up here, what I've actually done to help get this a little bit cleaner is I've been using a 3M piece of Scotch-Brite pad and WD-40 on here, and it's kind of gotten it much cleaner. I've done that in a number of other places, but it hasn't really done much on the inside webbing in there. But this was just really dirty. It didn't have really much paint on the front. It was just stained and whatnot. So it's coming cleaner. So I'm just gonna have to keep picking away at this. So that's the rear frame section here. That like the rear subframe. This is the back side, obviously, where the license plate and all that kind of stuff would mount. Turn signals mount on here. So all this has to get sandblasted. But before I get into that, Somebody at some point has bent this kind of double. This should be kind of more straight down, facing this way. So I'm going to heat this up a little bit and then see if I can bend it straight and hammer it flat before I get into the process of sandblasting and then repainting it. Hopefully this will get it hot enough that it doesn't crack or anything when I sort of bend it. I'm getting closer to the right angle now, but it's hard to know whether it should be coming down and following straight down this way. I suspect so. So that'll have to do for the general shape of it for now, I think. I think I'd have to get it red hot in order to get that little swale out of there. So we'll see if I need to pound that a little bit more. But in the meantime, I got to get this thing sandblasted as well as the battery box. So there's the battery box. It's in pretty rusty shape. So I think it would make sense that if I'm going to go to the paint booth to paint silver, that I take everything at one time. I'll take the rear subframe, I'll take the battery box, I'll take the swing arm. And as with the other fender that I was doing, I was sandblasting the battery box and the rear subframe and some of the pieces off the Suzuki, and it started to come clean. All the paint is off it. It's down to the primer underneath, but it's really not done a very good job taking off the rust at this point. So again, I think I'm gonna have to go to my buddy's place and see if I can run his blaster and compressor. I'll take my blasting aggregate over there, so I'm not using all his product. And I need to get this cleaner. Yeah, so while he was here, I pulled apart a hose too for him. I gave him to pull it apart. Single cylinder there. Got another moisture. They came apart okay. Alright, so I've got everything blasted. And I figured I might as well do this exhaust pipe while I was at it. Put some duct tape on there so it didn't pit the aluminum or anything. Yeah, should work alright. And this is the homemade blaster that I was using. It works really, really well. This hood keeps the sand from getting in your ears and everywhere else. So I'll get those covered in some etching primer, and I'll get that pipe painted in some high heat paint as well. And the other thing I found out is I was mentioning to my buddy that I was frustrated with trying to get this paint out of here, and there was nobody in the area that has soda blasting, but he said, well, I have glass blasting. He has a glass blasting gun, and he says I should still have sufficient glass beads to blast this all clean. So I'm going to take this over in a couple of days, and I'm going to give that a shot with the glass bead. That should take care of cleaning up inside those cast areas of the frame and up in the front here. I think that's a better solution than trying to paint it. Got the tires removed off these rims, so they're all ready to go. I can start to strip those now, get those all cleaned off, and then they'll be ready for paint. So slowly but surely, we're starting to get things cleaned up, and yeah, bit at a time. That's the way it always works. This is the kind of stuff, though, that it's, when you put these videos together, I'm trying to throw enough kind of variation and content of what I'm cleaning and what I'm doing, because you know, you can only see somebody scrubbing paint off a frame for so long. So it's not always that interesting to see these things getting prepared, right, for paint. So we do what we can. I can only show you what I'm doing, and I'll just try to vary the topics a little bit as we go through this stuff. This is a Tremclad high heat. It dries pretty quick, and it's good for I guess it says 350 Celsius or 650 Fahrenheit. So it's higher temperature resistance than even the Duplicolor high heat engine enamel. So this is what I always use. I've never had this stuff flake off ever. So usually 2 or 3 coats, let it dry nicely in between, or just at least so it dry to the touch. It dries real quick. And then usually, just to help it along a little bit, I'll just hit it with the heat gun. So here's another job that's kind of laborious but necessary. These kinds of restorations. I often find that wheel rims have been painted and they need to be stripped before you can kind of paint them again, because to be honest, you just don't know what kind of paint is on here. A lot of times it's rattle can lacquer paint, which, you know, it doesn't react well with some of the more modern paints that are kind of 2-pack paints. So I like to get everything off, get it down to the original finish and down to the bare metal if necessary. So I just use paint stripper with the brush, and then when I've done all the cleaning of the paint, then I got to go around. I have to fix then some of the edges of the wheel. So there's gouges here where some ham-fisted people have changed tires over the years. So, you know, using incorrect techniques, I guess, to install tires. Looks like these wheels were originally blue. You can see the inside of this wheel. It's probably the original paint, and then somebody's painted them black. Well, the acetone didn't really fare too much better. The thing that really bugs me about acetone, I try to wear rubber gloves as much as I can when I'm using chemicals, and acetone just turns these things into just eats rubber gloves completely away. They become useless. Back to the paint stripper. I'm just using it much more liberally, really ladling it on kind of thing, and then as it starts to dry up a little bit, ladle a bunch more of it on, and then it seems to be working reasonably well. So that's the paint stripping part of the process done. So one black wheel, that's the rear wheel, and blue wheel, the front wheel. So obviously at some point in this bike's life, somebody has changed or swapped out a front wheel or a rear wheel. So what I'm going to do next is clean everything with some acetone. So I've used mainly just paint strippers so far, and used the Scotch-Brite pads, which are, I just cut pieces off. I use this coarse grade Scotch-Brite. Works really well. So I'll clean them all up with some acetone, and then the next step is basically sanding. I'll use a 320 or a 400 grit, and clean everything with brake cleaner and acetone, and sand it again, and just keep cleaning it. Especially in all the, you got to be paying attention to the kind of the nooks and crannies where grease and all the crap from the chain and whatever else can get trapped. So once that's all done, I'll then paint these things with some etching primer, get them all primed up, and not only will that take care of any of the bare metal, which there's going to be lots of it by the time I'm done, it'll also make sure that any spots where there's contaminants that might be there will show up. So when I hit the paint booth eventually, it should be no surprises. I also have to get rid of still all of these adhesive areas where the wheel balancing weights were attached. They've all got to come off. Just filing some of the gouges and whatnot that are in the swing arm flat, and any of the holes that are left, I'll fill them with something just to make sure I have a nice even surface to paint. And this is just a kind of a small detail file with a big, something has put a big gouge in here, and it's basically piled up the aluminum on the top. So file that off and fill the hole. So I got the swing arm all primered. So I did some etch primer, and then I did a high solids primer on there. So that just needs to be scuffed up now before it gets painted, which I'll try and get in next week to do. And the rear subframe is primed, as is the battery box. And yeah, I'm going to take this frame over to my buddy shortly, and we'll try the bead blast and see how that takes care of the remainder of that paint. Now I got most of it off by blasting it, so I think what I'm going to try now is some spray-on aluminum wheel cleaner for the uncoated aluminum wheels, just to bring some of the luster back to that, which then will have to be neutralized because it tends to leave a corrosive white powder on there if you let it dry. So I'll do that, and then probably try to hit it with some clear coat. And I've still got a few spots here, but I didn't want to get too close to the front side of this where it was visible. So, but all the stuff inside there is pretty much cleaned out. So a couple of other small spots to take care of up inside here, which I'll do manually here and there, but nothing major. And then all of this sort of stuff here, I'm gonna have to sand that. I'm gonna have to sand this whole rear section of this frame down to get rid of the corrosion, and then I'll just clear coat it after. So I've tried a couple of cleaning products to try to, I guess, get a little bit more of the silvery luster back on this aluminum. So far, nothing has worked to do that. So what I'm trying to address is some of the more gray areas that resulted from the blasting. I tried, this is basically a mag wheel cleaner, basically for uncoated wheels, for rough cast alloy wheels that really hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. And then I've also tried this foaming wheel cleaner as well. Now, whether or not these are the sort of more acidic products that are, I mean, it says it's corrosive. And I thought that this would be the one that would work really well, but I don't know. Again, I thought this was the one that you kind of, it says spray on, hose off, but I have to read the directions again because maybe it's not as acidic as I would like. Maybe it's just meant for the coated wheels as opposed to the original sort of rough cast uncoated wheels, which is really what I want. So it kind of puts some of the better finish on this before I clear coat it. So I'm gonna have to get a different product. So first round of sanding on the front wheel. So as you see, there's quite a number of places where I'll be going right down to the aluminum to get enough of this paint off to satisfy myself that I've got rid of all the problem areas. I'm also starting just to sand on the inside of the wheel as well, because the whole thing is going to get painted even into the drop center of the wheel, and a special attention that I want to pay to down in this area where the tire beads onto the rim. A lot of corrosion tends to build up in there, and I want to make sure that after it's all sanded and painted and the tires go on, that it's going to provide a good seal. So I don't want to leave anything rough in this area before I throw paint on it. So paying a lot of attention to the inside of these beads. And then you can see right here, this is kind of one of those areas where there's actually this whole chunk of the wheel is kind of popped down there because somebody's probably used a tire iron there and butchered the edge of the rim. So I'm going to try to clean that up as much as possible, get rid of this little stray piece of aluminum here. By the time I bend that back up, it's going to break off. So probably what I'll do is I'll clean that notch out and just put a bit of JB weld in there. It's not a structural concern at all, it's just a little nick. So, but I at least want to kind of clean up the edge of the wheel so it looks decent when it's painted. So, and I'm not going to be using any sort of tire irons on this. It's going to be on a tire machine for installation. So I'm not using my own No-Mar tire changer because it's far too cold to be playing around with rubber on a manual tire changer. I'd end up wrestling for far too long. So there's the notch in the wheel after I've cleaned it up. So basically I just ground off all the stuff that was kind of hanging over the edge here. I used this, it's a diamond tip bit, and you can get other types of stuff that are kind of more aggressive, like something like that, but I find if I use this one on there, it catches and it wants to jump around too much. So there was diamond tipped. It's got like a diamond dust thing on it. It works pretty well, and it's not so aggressive that it catches and takes off on you. So I've cleaned out the inside of the notch as well. So now I'm going to clean this one here also. Just clean that out, and then I'll put some JB weld in there. Alright, so just started putting in the JB weld. I'm not using the stick stuff, I'm using the two-part original kind of epoxy. There is one that's kind of a stick, you can break it off and you mix it up, but I find that this stuff in smaller spaces like this tends to work a little bit better. The only thing is it tends to run a little bit out of where you want it. So while it's drying, I'm trying to keep it kind of built up in the right area, and if necessary I'll have to put in a second layer, I guess. But you build up the gouge and it kind of tends to run down the bottom here. So I'm hoping this kind of sets up reasonably quickly, and then it will stop running. I've done a couple of other spots around here. There's one over there, and as you see, it's starting to run a little bit. And then there's one over there. Yeah, I'm just going around and I'll just fill in the little nicks, and then it'll sand off and look much better. So here's a good shot of the corrosion that sometimes you find inside that bead area here. So that's all the stuff that I need to get rid of. I mean, you don't see it when the tire's on, but if you don't get that off, then there's a good chance you're going to end up with the rim and tire leaking, and you know, why would you go through all the trouble? So I mean, it just takes a few minutes with some sandpaper to knock all that off, and then you can etch prime it. So pretty simple. And the other thing, as far as taking off the wheel rim sticker adhesive that's left behind, is this is what I use, general purpose adhesive cleaner from Proform. Works really, really well. You just squirt that on, you leave it for a couple of minutes, and then it just basically just peels right off. So it's sometimes you need to give it a couple of shots, but generally speaking, it's works well. Not bad at all. That one I'll give it another shot. So the other thing I've got going here is I've started to cover over some of the other bikes, because the next stage of work, you know, including doing this sort of stuff, sanding, is the stuff that creates the dust and the mess. And as soon as I get into all of this body work, yeah, it's going to be getting really dusty in here. Unfortunately, this is my showroom and my workshop. It's so I've got to kind of make the most of the space I have available, and this is where, especially in the winter time, if it's the summertime, I can work downstairs, but it's a lot brighter and easier to do stuff up here. Is where all my tools are, but that just means I got to cover everything over. Otherwise, I spend more time dusting and cleaning those bikes than I actually do prepping body work. So, all right, I think we're going to call it a wrap for this video, and basically everything is pretty much ready to go to the next stage of kind of prep and refinishing. So wheels are all cleaned and sanded, and the epoxy repairs, or the JB Weld repairs, are on there. They just need to be sanded off a little bit. I think the frame is about as clean as I'm going to be able to get it. I've tried a lot of different products, and it's, you know, it's okay. I might try one or two more before I consider that cast area finished. I tried vinegar and water. I've tried a number of aluminum cleaners and whatnot, and nothing really to my satisfaction as yet. So I may take one more run at that. I do still have to sand the rear subframe and get that all cleaned up, because that's just too pitted to stay like it is. But and the swing arm has been primed. It's almost ready to go to paint, and all this stuff is ready to go to paint. So I think the next video will be things like refinishing the silencer, the end of the silencer. All these rusty rivets will come off. Get this polished up. I have a new identification plate to go on here, but it doesn't say Vance and Hines. It says Yoshimura. But that doesn't really matter. I can't find one of those from Vance and Hines of the right size, or I can't even find one that's stamped like that, to be honest. But so yeah, they'll go onto the workbench next. These will all get primed, and probably start looking at the bodywork. So all this stuff can all come apart, and I'll start to get that stuff sanded and repaired, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my favorite part. I love the plastic welding. I love the body work. I love the painting. All that kind of thing is kind of my go-to task. That's my happy place. So that's what I'm not a pro at it, of course, but it's still my happy place. So we'll get into that, and we'll just keep picking away at stuff as we haul it out of the bins, and that'll be that. So again, the plan is still the same. I'm still looking for a Katana 750 or a 1200 Bandit, whatever comes along here at the right price first. Missed out on a $1,000 Katana over Christmas. Unfortunately, I was tied up with other things over the holidays, as we all usually are, and it's now gone, but you know, that's the way it goes. So I'll hold out, and the reason I kind of want to get a complete bike as opposed to just an engine is, if possible, I want to hear it running. I don't want surprises. I can't afford surprises. That's the kind of stuff you think you buy a non-running bike and you end up with the same problem. So I'd like a running machine that I can be sure that it's good. And then I can also take up other things, you know, like turn signals and wiring harnesses and whatever else that might be better fit for this, especially if I'm transplanting the engine. The ECU might be different, I don't know, but you know, complete running bike, carbs, all of that kind of stuff. Because if I go with a 1200, the flat sides that are on the 750 are not the right size, although they would fit. So yeah, there's just a lot more benefit to getting a running bike. There is a 1200 Bandit just about 4 hours away from me that's close to the right price, but he's pretty sticky on his what he wants for it, and I'm pretty sticky on what I'm willing to pay. So we'll think about that and a little bit more, and we'll go from there. But yep, plan's still the same, and we'll see what the next video brings. Lots more to come. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. It's very much appreciated. And we'll see you in the next one.